My name is Matthew Howard. I'm the Director of Community Development, also the Land Use Officer. I have Eileen Kusa, who is the Administrative Assistant, and John Aguiar, who is the Code Enforcement Official. We're here to discuss hearing about demolition for 3 residential properties which were noticed per our ordinance. The time is 10:10 on November 14th. That is when the meeting is open. The purpose of this hearing is to discuss an order to demolish which was sent to 3 property owners within Howell Township. The properties have fallen into a state of disrepair for various reasons. Most of them are open to the element. They are unsafe structures. They are harborages for vermin and wildlife and unsecured from unlawful access. The township's intention is to hold the property owners responsible to ultimately eliminate these hazards in accordance with our ordinance. So the goal of this hearing is to allow the owners of the property to speak for or against the order to demolish. We will also be presenting evidence which has led us to issue the order for demolition and also to seek public comment for these order to demolish. Just to give a brief overview, this is not the first time the township has undertaken these activities. In 2020, we noticed 5 property owners with similar issues. There were 5 properties that had fallen into a state of disrepair throughout town, and we provided notice that these properties had to be demolished. Just to go over the history of that project, one of the properties was 12 Arlen Drive in the Ramtown section of Howell. As you can see from the photographs, the house was dilapidated, collapsing, had holes in the roof, foundation issues, and structural issues. We issued the order to demolish. The owner did appear at this hearing, but then they took no action, even though they said they would. Over 6 months after the hearing, after repeated attempts to get the owner to do something, the township undertook the activity to demolish themselves. We ultimately hired a contractor who did the work. We also charged for all of the municipal officials' time, including Eileen, John, myself, township attorney, outside attorney. We placed a almost $24,000 lien on the property, which was paid back by the owner. So this structure was demolished at no cost to the taxpayer. 11 Irene Boulevard was another example of a completely dilapidated house. Unlike the first property, where the owner was non-responsive, we did hear from the owner of this property. They agreed to demolish the structure, and they did so a few months after the hearing. We were able to close this out without the township expending any costs, and the property was graded, stabilized, and the structures were removed. 30 Oakwood Drive, this is in the Winston Park section. Another similar case of a dilapidated structure, holes in the roof, structural issues. After the hearing, we had a contractor approach us and let us know that they had taken ownership and were looking to rehabilitate the structure. Over the next 1 year, they pulled various permits. They worked with the township to do the work, pass all inspections, and you can see on the right, the house was completely rehabilitated and was sold on the market and is now owner occupied. Another property is 137 West 5th Street. The home was fire damaged and had significant damage to the roof, open to the elements, structural issues. The owners demolished that house earlier this year after we gave them some time to work through their issues. There's one other property on the list, Burgerville Road, which are 2 houses on the south side of Burgerville Road, west of Route 9. Those structures are working with the utility companies right now to obtain shutoff letters, and we hope that those structures will be demolished within the next couple of months. The basis for the demolition activity comes from Chapter 178, which is our housing code. Subsection 11 deals with unfit dwellings. This slide goes over 3 conditions that have to be met before it can be deemed unfit. Any one of them being met means that the definition is met. So the first one is conditions that are dangerous to the health and safety of the occupants, neighbors, or the residents of the township. This can include lack of ventilation, light, sanitary facilities, dilapidation, disrepair, or other structural defects. Also, if the structure creates a blight or unsightly appearance, that it is in such a state of disrepair that is detrimental to the health and welfare of the residents of the township. And finally, if there are so many violations of the ordinance that the township deems the property to be an immediate hazard. So those are the three conditions. Any one of those being met will meet the definition and the requirements for the order to demolish. First property we are going to discuss today is 1601 Route 9. It is known as Block 144, Lot 87. This structure is abandoned, it's unsecured, and there are doorways and windows that are leaving the inside of the structure open to the elements. Structurally unsound, the house is really being held up by some concrete blocks. There's actually a mechanical jack on the ground holding up a portion of the floor. So it is structurally unsound. The construction official inspected the property, and it looks like the house is also leaning on the foundation, so it is not sitting properly. And a portion of the porch, which is on the left side of the picture, is missing supports, and it is cantilevered out without any support, so it is definitely a hazard. For this property, the township feels that the first two conditions are met, and that is that it's dangerous to health and safety of the neighbors, other residents of the township, and the occupants, and it is also creating an unsightly appearance and is in such a state of disrepair that is detrimental to the health and welfare of the township. We sent notice on October 4th to the owners, and we have not received any word. Eileen, have you received anything?
I have not received anything.
John?
No.
So we're here to solicit opinion. There is nobody in the audience, so we are going to move on. There is no public comment, and there is no owner comment. This means that for this property, unless we hear otherwise, the township feels that the definitions are met and that demolition is required. What we will do is send out a finding of our, a letter documenting the findings of our hearing today, and the property owner will have an opportunity to respond. If they do not within 30 days, we will begin the process of obtaining quotes from contractors, preparing bid specifications, and scheduling the work to be done to demolish the structure ourselves. Again, a lien will be placed for the entire amount that the township spends, which includes contractor costs, any other outside costs, plus our own employees' time at the rate of their salary. Next property is 1 Yellowbrook Road, Block 177, Lot 42. It is a similar circumstance. The structure is open to the elements. There is missing siding and walls portions. The windows are open. There is a back basement that is unsecured from access, and it appears that there are structural issues as the connection of the house to the foundation appears to be buckling in several areas. The owner did reach out to us, and we had a conversation regarding the future of the property. I'm going to read into the record an email from Joseph Silvestri, who is the owner of record, that was sent on October 26, 2022 at 1:55 p.m. As per our conversation, I am moving forward with the tear down of house at 1 Yellowbrook Road. We are in the process of selecting a contractor for said tear down, as well as a contractor for an asbestos survey. Once we have estimates in hand and a timeline, I will communicate likely dates. Currently, I've taken steps to repair the collapsed outside basement access door and have removed all obvious hazards to the best of my knowledge from the property. This included the highway dumping that had occurred over the years along Route 33 prior to my ownership, as well as the number of dangerous trees that were possibly falling, although a large branch dropped recently on the property. With regard to the barn, it is my intention to keep that for the time, as it represents no structural hazard and is constructed of concrete block, and the roof is straight without leaks. If I keep it at any length of time, one broken story window, which I will board up and redo. I checked the structure and is locked and sealed up at the ground level at this time. In our inspection of the property, we do agree that the detached garage, which is not pictured here, which is concrete block construction, is in fine condition and can remain. So we're only looking to cover the demolition of the house. The owner has agreed to demolish the house. Based on our findings, the same two conditions were met. Conditions dangerous to health and safety of the occupants, neighbors, and other residents, and creating an unsightly appearance. Based on the correspondence we received from the property owner, the township's going to take no further action and allow the property owner to complete the demolition work, apply for permits, and do what they need to do. We're going to give 120 days from the date of this hearing for that work to be completed, or at least to show a good faith effort by applying for the permit, scheduling the work, working with the utility companies, whatever it is. If after 120 days no work has been completed, we haven't seen any effort, the township still feels that based on the previous definitions, the criteria for demolition has been met, and the township will seek a bid specification and contractor quotes to do the work after 120 days. Have that, Eileen? All right. The final property is Maxim-Oak Glen Road. This is also known as the Pierce Farm. It is to the west of County Route 547. It is known Block 52, Lot 11. There is an existing two-story home which is collapsed, deteriorated beyond repair, as well as some outbuildings, including a barn. Just by looking at the photographs, you could tell that the conditions are such that the structure cannot be repaired. We feel that demolition is required. The conditions are dangerous to health and safety, the occupants, neighbors, and other residents, and there's creating an unsightly appearance in the state of disrepair. I've also received, so the owner, we sent owner of record on October 4th a letter. We did just recently receive a correspondence from Mr. Greg Vella, who represents the owner, Michael Hammer. He wrote on November 10th, 2022, in furtherance of our call on November 9th, 2022, my client is agreeable to demolish the existing front home within the next 60 days. My client will obtain a contractor to do the demolition and apply for a demo permit. As we discussed, my client will secure the other building, which we refer to as the barn, and as a result of the securing of the building, it will not have to be torn down. We agree with this. The outbuilding, just like in the previous property, is in satisfactory condition. Any work that needs to be done on that structure will have to get permits, but we are not seeking the demolition as it does not meet the criteria of the ordinance. However, the owner has agreed to demolish the main house, which they will do so in 60 days. We can give, just like on the previous owner, 120 days to show the demolition completed, or a signs of good faith effort, which include permits applied for, utility shut-off letters obtained, and other checklist items needed for the permit. After 120 days, if no effort has been made, no work is completed, the township will prepare a bid specification and start to get quotes to do the demolition work ourselves. We hope on the last two properties that the owners will follow through, and we will not need to complete that work. So after today, we will issue a decision in writing within 10 days to the property on Route 9, 1601. Again, it is our decision that demolition is required, and we've heard nothing to the contrary. We will issue that order. If within 30 days we have not heard from the owner or work has taken place, we will begin the bid specification process and obtain quotes to do the demolition ourselves. Again, we will create, all costs will be repaid to the township as we put a lien on the property. That'll include contractor costs, outside costs, attorney fees, plus the township's employees' time for this hearing, any other hearing needed, and the work done to complete the work. The other two properties, as we've discussed, the owners are going to undertake the demolition, and we will give them adequate time to do so. At that time, I have nothing else for the hearing. Anything else to add? Nope. The hearing is completed at 10:22 p.m.